Today I wanted to go over the specific functions and the materials that B.Public uses in their typical wall assemblies. So first off, this is the interior of our assembly. We use Intello, which is a smart vapor retardant. This is this is also what forms the layer of our air tightness. So this is interior space right here. And this controls or limits vapor that's moving through into our assembly, as well as really inhibits any unwanted air leakage that might go through there. So all the B.Public assemblies have an interior service cavity that we'll go over on the interior. And then next is our primary insulated core, which is dense pack cellulose. You can see an example of it here. So it's typically installed to between a 4.2 to a 4.5 pounds per cubic foot. So cellulose, it's a great material because it has so much of a capacity for absorbing and releasing any humidity or moisture that might get into the wall, as well as it's a 70% post-consumer recycled material, which is phenomenal. The other interesting aspect of cellulose is that, unlike a lot of our other forest products that are used in construction, that are either coming from Ontario or the Northeast or Florida, Georgia, the Southeast in the United States, where those transportation costs and raw materials are having to travel so far, cellulose has manufacturing throughout the country because it points of recycling centers. So it's really nice. So we can, even in our mountain region, we're able to use cellulose that's manufactured right within our region, which is great. The structural core for our wall assemblies and our roof and floor assemblies all use an engineered wood web joist or stud like this, and so it's 100% engineered wood. The benefits of using engineered wood are pretty considerable. It's quite a bit more stable. It also uses smaller pieces of wood, so it's able to use smaller chips from forest product harvesting. And it's also, as you can see, it has this sort of eye shape, so it's a really good thermal bridge barrier from the interior to the exterior. Very little conduction that's able to happen through that web. And then on the exterior, it's our structural sheathing. Very typical. It's a 1/2 inch plywood. We use plywood over OSB for a couple different reasons. One, it's quite a bit more vapor open than OSB. It's also got quite a bit more durability from a moisture perspective, as well as stability in working with it. Carpenters, 9 times out of 10 will much prefer working with plywood compared to an OSB. It's just a lot easier and to work with. And then one of the more innovative yet relatively simple aspects of our assemblies are the top plate and the bottom plate, and both of them are 1 inch engineered wood, so 1 inch plywood. So it's really reducing the amount of thermal bridging that's going through that plate also. And so one thing that it does mean though then is anytime, so our roof bearing would be coming onto the top of the wall assembly, and so those roof joists are all sitting in line with our wall joists. And then going into a typical rough opening, so what we call a buck. It's got just a 3/4 inch engineered sill, and then jamb, and then inside of these smaller cords that you see here, there's just like a little bit of a recess. We're using a mineral wool in that section. And it's also what we use for at the joints between our wall assemblies. And you can see this is also a joint right here between a roof assembly. So right here on the outside, just filling it with rock wool creates a little bit of a cushion. That way then when the next panel comes into place, it just compresses a little bit and creates a really great thermal connection at that point. On the exterior of our assemblies, they're wrapped on 5 sides with a fully adhered weather resistant barrier. It's a pretty amazing product because it's as much protection as it provides the exterior of the building. It also is extremely vapor open, so meaning that any moisture that might be in the assembly due to seasonal changes in humidity and so forth based on the climate, that's always able to dry out to the exterior as needed. The interior is also considered vapor open, but the exterior is the most vapor open. This is really what we call our control layer, and then everything dries out from it. The exterior weather barrier that's being using as a fully adhered weather barrier is really nice because it can much more resistant to penetrations or tears, as well as reduced air leakage due to its full contact with that structural sheathing. Overall, B.Public's assemblies are using 98% forest products. As you can see in the cellulose, by weight, there's around 60% post-consumer recycled products. And again, fully vapor open, very high performance from an R35 to an R52, a very healthy wall assembly.